And hello and welcome to AleksTabletops MTG Sets Study session 143 part 1. My name is Alex. This is Body. And today we are continuing to study Magic the Gathering by studying legendary set. Legendary set, what? The set that basically called Legends. So yeah, basically we continue with Legends, we continue where we left off. So again, streams from now on are going to be on Twitch. These type of streams like MTG Sets Study, so is the regular streams again. More information on the schedule in panels, Twitch panels, so let's just go. So let's just figure out what was the last card, what was the thing, and just move on. I don't have that much time today. I'm actually feeling pretty bad. Like I have a minor headache, which probably will grow stronger till the end of the stream, but hopefully not. To the point that I will need to take a pill because I hate taking pills. So yeah, continue. So Blazing Effigy. So this is the last card that we stopped with. So let's just go through it. First, of course, let's just check the sound. Sound works. I don't know if music is actually playing. It's supposed to play. So previously, while streaming on Twitch, I encountered problems. It was only during the streaming the game itself, like Magic Arena. It doesn't like we shouldn't experience problems during regular like this type of streams because I'm streaming these streams through OBS Studio, so it has to work properly. But again, when it comes down to the gaming streams, I'm not streaming them from OBS, I'm streaming them through a different program, so I solved those issues. So starting next week, or maybe even this week, if I will manage to stream unscheduled streams on Twitch, we might actually go through unscheduled streams. But again, all unscheduled streams of Magic Arena are gonna be in Russian. Like, of course, English language is going to be supported too, but again, in most cases, they're going to be, the game itself is going to be in English, but I'm going to speak Russian then, there, in most cases. And occasionally switch games to Russian if we need. So yeah, let's just go. So again, this is kind of a new beginning. Again, we continue in the new season. A couple of episodes ago, we started a new season from episode 142, and since that time, I decided to switch basically from streaming from YouTube to Twitch to two different channels on Twitch, because my first reasons to quit, like transition from Twitch creative channel to YouTube, was to just basically separate creative channel from gaming channels, and at that time it was logical for me to focus everything on YouTube. But throughout like almost like a year streaming on YouTube, there's nothing there in terms of streaming to basically catch. No one is watching there, and there's not even a potential for people to watch you there. So because of this, I decided, whatever, let's just create a separate gaming channel on Twitch. Why not? So I don't know why I didn't thought about it before. Maybe because I didn't want like to stick to Twitch at that point in terms of the gaming streams. So by switching to YouTube was a kind of a good idea at that point. But again, throughout the year, I rethought a lot of things and decided to now, especially since I got sponsored by Wizards, to actually switch to Twitch, because Twitch will have more opportunities if we will get sponsored again. Like that way we could grow more audience and attract more people to what I'm doing. So again, this is kind of the whole idea to getting back to Twitch, but like just maintaining or establishing a separate channel for it. So yeah, without further ado, let's just continue. So again, I have a minor headache. It's growing on me, kind of. It's pretty bad. So I don't know how long I'm gonna stream. Maybe an hour, maybe two. We'll see. It all depends how quick we're gonna go through these things. So let's just go. So for some reason, by the way, this thing is lagging. I don't know the actual reason for. It isn't supposed to. So, what I don't understand though is why my channel is not hosting me again. It's weird. Okay, let's just do it again. Like, unhost this, chat, and then basically host, because since now I have 2 Twitch channels, why not host myself playing games or creating gaming content on my creative channel, because in the end they will be connected to some degree. So let's just host it again. So command established, and now we're hosting. Command established, and now we're hosting. So hopefully it's not going to drop, and even if it's gonna drop, it's not that big of a deal. So let's just close unnecessary programs, because it's quite heavy on a PC at this point. I'm actually dropping speed again for some reason. I thought we're not going to have issues with the connection, but for some reason we still have some reasons, like connection disconnections, like minor, but they are present. So yeah, let's just go. So again, the last card we start with is a Blazing Effigy, so let's just find it in here and see. Blazing Effigy. So the reason why we stop on this card, probably, again, that we had to stop somewhere, but let's just reread it and think how we could simplify it, generalize it, etc. For those who are not familiar with what I'm doing is basically studying Magic the Gathering Sense right from the beginning of times when Magic actually was created. So far we studied, I have separate categories. I have categories of unsets. We studied all unsets: unglued, unhinged, and unstable. It was pretty fun. It actually was quite complicated because, like, it was complicated because a lot of rules in unstable, like in unsets, are not necessarily like Magic. I mean, they're going outside of the Magic, so it was pretty complex for me to start with these type of complicated sets. But again, it was fun thing. Then I went quickly through casual supplements, which is basically Arch Enemy, Plane Chase, Explorers of Ixalan, free-for-all multiplayer, Draft, what else? Conspiracy, Commander, or Singleton, or Brawl Singleton, basically, in Singleton rules, Vanguard, and Global Series, and Battlebound. So I basically kind of finished all casual sets at that point. I don't know, I believe there's no casual sets out since that time. Let's see. Find casual supplements. Other products, so casual supplements. No, I guess nothing. Like the last set was Explorers of Ixalan. Battlebound was kind of separate product. It was more like a two-handed giant focused set. 2 and 2 players or more. So cool. Of course we studied all of those. So again, and now we just started vintage sets, so-called a vintage category. I created these categories myself to just basically simplify things for myself. So the vintage category is the exact category that we're studying right now. It basically includes like Alphabet Unlimited, the first set, our Arabian Nights, Antiquities that we finished not that long ago, Revised Edition, which is basically a revision of all previous sets, like in combination of some sort. In most cases this one with additional Arabian Nights and Antiquities. So I went through this set pretty quickly, it doesn't have that many information here. So, and now we basically continue with Legends. So, and this is exactly what, this is the process that I'm going to go through without necessarily that many changes. We're just going to read through cards. We're going to decide what card has potential to be added into a intellectual mind map or just mind map. And what card is not worthy, like what mechanic or whatever is not worthy to be added there because we already covered it. And in most cases this is exactly how it's gonna go. So I also have a separate thing like MTG Study drafts, which are the drafts that we're going to go through at some point. Like the example of the first draft is something like this, like physical interactions with a card. This is going to be a separate category. Another category is action, like out of the game actions. Inside of the game, like in-game actions, roll dice or random generator based kind of separate categories. Another one is again like in between card interaction category, cumulative based category, like price balance based category, name text based category, control based category, like rule in-game state based category, choice, etc, etc, etc. So again, like choice based, condition based. This is choice between based. It's a little bit different than just choice. So again, this is just an example how I could approach it. The more information I will have on Magic, the more I will break down them into separate categories. And the reason to do this is to basically create a pretty good database of information that I could potentially then to use in creating my own tabletops games, which is something that we're gonna create here on AleksTabletops on Twitch now. So because originally I wanted to create tabletop games on my creative channel, but then again, when I created this gaming channel on Twitch, I decided, okay, it could be a good idea to actually transition everything game related and actually do it here. Even if it's going to relate to art, it's still gonna be game related stuff. So at some point, the whole idea of this is basically not just focusing this channel only on playing games, but more like sticking to the longevity of this idea to then transition into creating my own stuff. So because of this, what I'm doing here right now is just basically kind of slowly building this fundamentals, I should say, for potential of creating my own stuff. Because again, like when I'm playing games, I don't want to use them to just basically waste time and or just have fun, experience something, and then forget about it. I want to utilize this knowledge into something, because this is just the way I am. I can't just pointlessly learn information without any kind of reason. I have to then apply this information somewhere. So, and it seems like a good idea to do this. Again, I'm not gonna do this professionally by any means. This is just like kind of a hobby thing, but this is still something that I would like to pursue in the future. So I don't know how fast we're gonna get there. It might take a year, two, I don't know. It all depends also how good I am at art. So my art progression is going to be kind of a I don't know how to properly say it. It's going to determine how fast we're going to transition into actually creating tabletop games, but still I want to kind of still pursue this idea by at least sticking to something. And these streams that I'm doing here, like studying MTG Sets and MTG Sets Study, part of MTG Study, is gonna revolve around exactly this, like building this base and studying sets. So again, you will figure out what I'm doing throughout the, like if you're interested in it, throughout the process of streaming. I guess again, I remember like when I started this at my creative channel, I had a couple of people that actually helped me to establish mechanics, helped me to establish like interesting combinations, and it was actually pretty fun to do this together with someone. Again, since then I kind of stopped streaming Magic there, and basically those people of course lost interest in that. So, and they probably wasn't aware that I transitioned on YouTube, so in the end it was kind of like I lost those people that was interested in like helping me to do this. But still, it would be fun to actually find them here on Twitch again, or find new people that could be interested in like going through this together. In the end, it's pretty fun thing to break down mechanics. It will definitely help you to learn and understand card games a little bit better, because again, the more you understand these complexities, like the better you will probably be in dealing with complex situations, because complex situations in Magic are pretty common. They're not necessarily like super common, but I mean they are pretty like common in terms of like appearances. Like at least like every time that I'm playing Magic, at least maybe once or a couple of times a day, I will like deal with complicated situation. But it all depends how complex of a decks you're building. If you're building complex decks, of course you will find yourself in much more complicated and interesting situations that you would find yourself by building like this like simple deck. But again, we're not going to go into this. So again, in the end, I'm doing this for multiple reasons, not just one. And I just wanted to basically let you to know, like, if you will be interested to do this, I'm not going to stop doing this like at any point. I'm already doing this for a couple of years without almost like stopping. Like I put a pause on MTG Set studies at some point, but the reason was again just Twitch and streaming in general, because it was much more logical to create gaming streams than this, because this no one watched. But now I basically went through YouTube. Now I'm gonna stick to this regardless of what audience we're gonna want. I will just, like, if audience will want more like gaming streams and Magic Arena streams, I'm just gonna try to stream outside of the schedule, and that's it. Because again, I'm still gonna stick to these streams no matter what, because again, they are a kind of a progression to creating my own stuff, and I can't just skip it. So hopefully it will go like quicker, because for now it's a pretty slow process, because like again, going through like during one session that could go from hour to 2 hours or something like this, I'm usually, I don't know, encountering, going through, I don't know, 15, 20 maybe cards. It all depends how fast I will go. If we're going to establish like complex mechanics, then we'll probably stick to one mechanic for 5 minutes or so, maybe even more, if we will try to find something interesting in it. But again, it's still pretty cool when I'm going through this. Like it actually gives me a lot of confidence in Magic knowledge in general. It gives me a lot of understanding of complex mechanics. It creates a lot of potential for future game creation like this, like, I don't know, card game creation. So again, in the end, there is a point to it. So if you're interested to see where it's gonna go, again, I have all these sessions available on YouTube, like right from the beginning when I started to do this. So again, in the end, we are on 142 session. These sessions more applied to the regular MTG study sessions, and not necessarily for MTG set study sessions. They're quite jumpy in terms of the numbers, because they tied to the number of the actual seasons sessions. But still, and there were a couple of seasons that we didn't study Magic the Gathering sets. So whatever, let's just stop explaining myself or over explaining myself. I'm tempted to do that. This is something that I'm trying to do less, but sometimes I don't know, I can't, especially in English, because this is not my native language. My native language, of course, is Russian. So explaining this in English, like sometimes over explaining kind of works, because it allows people that potentially could watch to understand what I'm trying to say, I guess. I will try to get my point across by over explaining things, and maybe that way people will understand by just basically, like, through my broken English of some sorts, with these examples, you might understand what I mean here. So either way, let's just continue, because again, like 20 minutes I'm just rambling about nothing. So let's just start. So again, Blazing Effigy. So when Blazing Effigy dies, it deals X damage to target creature, where X is 3 plus the amount of damage dealt to Blazing Effigy this turn by other sources named Blazing Effigy. So again, there is a reason why I stopped on this card. It's pretty complex. I didn't have time to kind of deal with this repetitiveness, so there's a lot of like repeats in here. Like again, when Blazing Effigy dies, which is a creature elemental with 0/3, by itself it can deal any damage, but it can of course accept some damage, and based on it accepting a certain amount of damage, it will deal X amount of damage to target creature, I guess. So again, the amount of damage that this one will be dealt is gonna basically get back to a target creature, to a target creature of your choice, but +3 the amount of damage. So again, if this creature will get 2 damage. Funny thing is that, oh no, it actually works when it dies. So the logical thing is to kill this creature with a spell that will deal this creature only 3 damage, because if you're going to like kill it with something that deals 3 damage to it, or 4 damage or more, again, like this damage +3 is gonna reflect back on the other target creature, usually under opponent's control, of course. So it's not necessarily a good thing. So let's just try to explain this card in general terms, because again, it's pretty complex. It's pretty not necessarily complex, it's pretty simple to understand it, but it's complex in its phrasing. So, especially for non-native speakers, I guess. So, when blazing effigy dies, when this creature dies, usually this is the way that I'm kind of explaining. When this creature, by the way, we rarely see this when this creature dies. Usually we see when this card does this or that, basically using this card terminology. But in this particular instance, we have this creature dies. When this creature dies, deal X damage to target creature. Again, it could be your creature if you want to, for instance, retrigger this reaction. Because again, if you have multiple blazing effigies, oh, wait a minute. I didn't understood it properly, I guess. Let's see. Where X is the plus the amount of damage dealt to blazing effigy this turn by other sources named blazing effigy. Oh, so you have to retrigger it, which makes things complicated. So again, this card probably works with a self-triggering. So you have to have multiple copies, only that. Okay, this is understood. So if you have like 4 copies, it will multiply damage 3+, 3+, 3+, and then you will deal a lot of damage to a certain type of creatures. Again, pretty weird card. Again, it kind of creates a chain reaction, as I understand it properly. Like, it would be much more cooler if I would think about it the way that I thought about it at the beginning. So because of this, we're going to add this information in specification. Like again, the first way that I understood it, the second way that it actually does things. So let's just try to again generalize it first. So this creature dies, it deals X with this creature. It's going to be not easy to generalize it because we have the name-based ability, where name of the card is super important here. By the way, let's check this out again. Ability, where name of the card is. Yeah. So it deals X damage to target creature, where X is the 3+ the amount of damage dealt to this creature this turn by other sources named like this creature, or as, no, probably like this creature, not as this creature, like this creature. So again, it's a name-based mechanic of some sort. So let's just, the first thing that we're going to establish, this is a name-based mechanic, which means that that basically, and also it creates a chain reaction based on the amount of names. Creates a chain reaction based on the number of cards with this name. In this particular instance, they have to interact. Only that way this chain reaction is going to be created. The number. So name-based mechanic creates a chain reaction based on the number of cards with this name. I would say in this particular instance that are participating in this action. Funny thing is that when I'm trying to generalize it, it actually makes it much more complex. Because again, when you're just reading this card as it is, you're trying to understand this card only in this particular instance and how it works. But when you're trying to generalize it, you always trying to think outside of the box. You're always trying to think how this ability could be used not only in Magic, and like first of course you're trying to think how this ability could be used in Magic, specifically in certain different situations, in applying your knowledge in Magic, and only then you will try to go outside of the Magic, like outside of the scope of Magic. But still, and it definitely could make it much more complex and confusing. So because of this, adding those specifications and keeping the ability pretty similar to original is a good idea, like before going through the first draft, because again, then we'll just have more information. We have like kind of an original information, because again, I don't want to specifically establish the names of each card, because I'm not planning to get back to them. This is the idea. I truly don't have the idea to get back to them. So, by the way, let's just see if I'm even in Magic, like if I'm even showed in Magic streams in here. Maybe I'm streaming like privately, who knows. I truly don't know. This is the first time that I'm streaming on Twitch from OBS here in gaming channel, so I kind of want to see where exactly I am in terms of the lists. There's a lot of Magic streamers today, so a lot of streamers with 0 views, but I don't see myself there actually. It's weird, because again, if I don't see myself there, no one's going to find me. No, I actually seeing myself. Good. I actually have 1 viewer. So this is probably me. So yeah, so again, Legends, session 143, part 1, MTG Sets Studies, English, Russian, and a lot of, like, I'm usually like creating pretty long names. Maybe this is one of the reasons why people never reading. Nowadays, or people have a pretty short, like, how to probably say it, I don't know, short time span. They are pretty easily distracted. They don't focus on one thing for a longer period of time, and I completely understand this, why it's happening, because we're living in this, like, you know, super crazy society, like technologically based society, where everything is accessible, almost, at least for most of the people, and this access makes us more distracting, or more destructive. No, how to probably say. Basically distracts us more than... I'm usually like having troubles with properly phrasing the phrase of destruction and destructive. Distracting. Sometimes it's weirdly weird. Okay then, so the listing that I will do, let's just open quickly and see if I'm still hosting myself. Yes, I'm still hosting myself. Funny thing is that I'm hosting in 1080p. Because again, I don't have the option to change output resolution for the streams separately on OBS, which is a problem. Because I had this option before, but since the updated codec, new ENG codec that works on my system better than the previous one created a lot of bugs and artifacts. I have to use new one, and with the new one I don't have this option. So the only way how I can stream is that way. It's just basically full HD, which is fine, I guess, because we're working with a lot of text, and it's better when this text is represented in full HD. But what's not good thing about it, that I don't have a control of the output here, like in terms of the quality, and those people who have less speed not going to be able to watch in 1080p, which is a shame. But again, gaming streams will be still in 720p. Either way, continuing. So again, first thing, again, a name-based mechanic creates a chain reaction based on the number of cards with this name. So again, I believe it does actually this. It truly creates kind of a chain reaction based on the cards with this name. So it deals X damage to target creature, where X is the +3 plus the amount of damage dealt to this creature this turn by other sources named. So again, you have to kind of re-trigger this damage, and it's pretty weird. I don't know, maybe I just don't understand it properly, because I have a pretty, like, growing headache, so it's pulsating even, feeling pretty bad. So maybe because of this my brain is not able to go through it properly. But again, as I probably understand it, like the end of the phrase actually throws me off quite a bit. So when it dies, it deals X damage to target creature. This is clear and understandable. So again, first trigger, it's when it dies, it's basically a trigger. Then it performs certain type of action, deals X damage to target creature. And then we have an explanation where, like, what this X means. And then we have like double explanation. The first is X is 3 plus the amount of damage dealt to this creature this turn. It would be awesome if it stopped here. But no, it continues, which basically now complicates things by other sources named like this creature. So again, it basically kind of implies now that this is first a name-based mechanic, because you have to, in order for this thing to trigger, you have to kind of deal damage to other creatures with the same name with this mechanic. So it seems like you have to deal, I don't know, or it works only with mass removal. If for instance people have like utilized mass removal, like all creatures get 3 damage, all of them will die, and then this trigger will get +3 for each creature with this name that was dealt damage. So I don't know, it just seems pretty weird and strange. Maybe at some point by revisiting this card I will understand it a little bit better, because again, let's just skip through it. Let's just add those specifications that I'm thinking about right now and skip to the next one, because again, my brain is not ready for it today. Whew. So name-based mechanic first, again, creates a chain reaction based on the number of cards with this name. The other thing that we could add here, additional funny thing is that I believe it's still gonna deal X damage, but the +3 element will depend if we're gonna utilize this by other sources named this creature. So even so, like again, when you have this complicated like mechanic with a lot of kind of parts, it's starting, at least I'm starting to confuse myself with how it could work. So again, it deals X damage to target creature, where X is a 3 plus the amount of damage dealt to this creature this turn by other sources named like this creature. So basically with the same name. And here where is the caveat, I guess, is the fact that like it's like the X damage is still gonna be dealt in order to kill this creature, and this damage is still gonna be dealt to a target creature, I believe, no matter if it's gonna be multi-triggered with cards with the same name. But the other thing, like the +3 amount of damage, is gonna be added if this thing will be like in addition to that. I don't know, like this is actually quite confusing. Like additional slash is exclusive. No, I don't know how to properly phrase it actually in general terms here. Name-based mechanic, this is clear. Creates a chain reaction based on the number of reaction. Like, question is... Yeah, let's just get with the question here. So, question is... it deals X damage regardless of the name and chain reaction, but without a additional part. Additional part for us is 3 plus. I just want to explain what additional part is here, again, for myself. These things are, at the beginning, are just like basically personal. Like for now, I'm doing this thing for myself just to basically set this like basic understanding, because when I'm going to read them later, I need to understand where I was coming from at that time. So because of this, I'm spending quite a lot of time on trying to phrase them the way that I will understand them, not only now but later. And it's not gonna be like every time properly phrased, but hopefully I will do my best here. By the way, one of the things that I like about this MTG Sets studies sessions, I'm actually learning English. This is my way of learning English instead of just learning it the way that you usually learn English, like taking lessons and whatever. I had my lessons at one time. I went through courses, English courses, like intermediate ones, and this was the one and only course that I took in English. The rest of it was just basic knowledge and learning from watching wrestling, WWE, watching, like, playing Magic, watching movies, series in original. So all of these things are basically helped me to learn English a little bit better. And what I'm doing here is just learning a little bit different type of language, like different type of English, extending my vocabulary. So why not? It's actually kind of pretty beneficial. So, when this creature dies, it deals X damage to target creature, where X is 3 plus the amount of damage dealt to this creature. This turn by other sources named, like this creature, same name, with the same name, yes, name-based mechanic. Creates a chain reaction based on the number of cards with that card. With this name. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm truly tired, I want to distract myself, so just decided to talk in a weird way. So question is it deals X damage regardless, is a question, regardless of the name card, of the name and chain reaction, but without an additional part. So again, question. Or it only deals X damage if these conditions will be met. Or they're not necessarily being met, because this is not something that will just come to you. This is something that you have to create on your own. So if these conditions will be created, let's say, so you have to kind of create those conditions. Damage. So, oh no, damn it, this is bad. I removed everything here. Yeah, it's better. So again, truly the question is, it deals X damage regardless of the name and chain reaction. Again, regular 3 damage enough to kill it, or 4 damage enough to kill it, or whatever, depending on how much damage this creature will get. By the way, also a good thing to establish that this is a creature with the base power of 0 and toughness 4. This is super important here, because, or 3, because it means that creature roll 3. I'm gonna have to establish this element here, because sometimes mechanic can't work without the creature type, like without the card type and without the specifications of those cards. Not necessarily specifications, I would say characteristics, which is again the terminology of what we can call these things. So at some point will come, like at some point I will call the card characteristics things such as name, the base power and toughness, and specifications. This is something that specifies the mechanic from different points of view by, let's say, trying to break down this mechanic into multiple ones. Multiple mechanics. Okay, so, and this is it. This is the only question that I have here. The rest is actually pretty simple. I don't want to overcomplicate this thing, because again, this is the only question that I have here that I don't have a solution for. But in general, this is a pretty good card. Again, it could work in chain reaction based on the name of this card involved in this reaction. It adds an additional effect if this thing will be performed. And the question is, does it deal the regular damage to target creature? And the +3 is determined by the necessity to perform this action. This is a question. So again, let's continue from here. The next one. Next. So next is, again, let's just go a little bit quicker because I spent like 40 freaking minutes on one mechanic and talking weird stuff, so let's just go. But again, this is kind of a first session on a different kind of channel. I have to adapt, and I don't know. Although nothing is changing, it still feels new and weird. Every time that you change in your place, or streaming with a new kind of potential audience, with the new possibilities, you will change the way that you will behave, you will change the way that you'll think, and for a couple of probably weeks or even months, it definitely will be a time to adjust. So again, Enchanted Land, when Enchanted Land becomes tapped, destroy it. Weird. This is actually pretty interesting, Landed Destroyer. I kind of like it. I mean, this is something that I didn't necessarily have before. And it's pretty simple what it does, but like, this is kind of a regular, somewhat destroyer, but this is not just a regular destroyer. This is basically a destroyer based on a condition. Of the card, which is much more interesting type of destroyer. It's actually kind of creates a pretty cool stuff. So again, this is an enchantment that you will put on a land, and if this land will tap for mana, it will still produce mana if it desperately needs this mana, like the opponent or you desperately needs need this mana, but it will destroy it. So it's actually a pretty cool one. Kind of like it. The only thing that I don't know, like, should we put it in general terms? By the way, we also have two categories: a frequently used abilities. These are the type of abilities that Magic uses used throughout the years, but they don't necessarily have names. And we have a actual mechanics, such as reach, vigilance, and etc. So, like, I put every type of some sort of a mechanic or something similar to mechanic right here. Everything that has a name for it is actually here. We actually already covered most of the abilities that Magic has, and of course, like, when we will go through sets that they will add more abilities to, since, like, starting from Meriden, maybe even like before, there's going to be a lot of things. So it will go stronger. So one thing that I want to find here, like, should we just add an additional thing to destroy? We're gonna have a lot of destroy thing here. Regenerate, destroy, Death Touch, destroy, Indestructible, destroy, Monstrosity, destroy, Regenerate, destroy, destroying, destroy. Seriously? We don't have a separate destroyer? Destroy target creature and all other creatures with the same name as that creature. Again, name-based thing. Name-based destroyer. Destroy target creature of your choice, then destroy target creature and opponent's choice. Yeah, we have like a... oh, here it is. Destroy and exile target attacking creature. Which is, again, not necessarily... yeah, we have all type of destroyers right here. Let's just go through them. What we have... why we have so many copies of destroy? So we have destroy, exile target attacking creature, blocking creature, target tapped creature. Maybe at some point it could be a good idea to actually combine all destroy abilities together. But for now, let's just add another other one, which is basically destroy based on a condition of the card. In this particular instance, when it's tapped, it will be destroyed. So this is a little bit different type of destroyer, because before, destroyers that we had are kind of a targeted destroyer, so you will target the tapped creature to destroy it and whatever. But this one it's a little bit different destroyer, because this destroyer is kind of an enchantment that creates the ability to destroy. Enchantment, like enchant a land. Well, let's just say permanent, because this is a different type of destroyer. It's truly a different type of destroyer. It's actually a pretty cool type of destroyer. Enchant a permanent, destroy this permanent if certain conditions of the card are met. It's pretty weird phrasing conditions of the card. Like, the word conditions, I didn't necessarily like here how it works. Oh, snap. Create a floating topic. This would be something that I would want to. Let's just get back to destroy. Snap. I have to find it again. Destroy all types of cards. Mass removal we have here. Though we actually have a lot of destroy things. Maybe we could combine them together. Here it is. All destroy things. So destroy exile. So this one destroy too, but it works a little bit differently. So enchant a permanent, destroy this permanent if certain conditions are met. Now, certain conditions of this card are met. An example: when it's tapped, it will be destroyed. What else we could think of here? When it reaches a certain amount of counters, also oh snap, amount reaches, yeah, when it reaches a certain amount of counters. So again, we could think of all type of possibilities around here. The only thing that we need to keep in mind here that it basically is based on a certain condition of the card. So again, certain amount of counters, certain amount of states. Like for instance, if this is a creature, if this creature, maybe even like, I don't know, will be dealt damage. I don't know. Has power or toughness less or more than the starting like the base one, the original, I would say. Which is actually pretty interesting. So again, has power or toughness less or more than the starting amount. So again, if this creature is 3/3 and it will accept like 1 damage, it will be destroyed because it has this certain condition met. And not necessarily, like, again, we have a lot of type of condition-based mechanics, but the difference with this condition-based mechanic is it needs a certain condition from this card. It's more like not necessarily a condition, I would say. It's more like a... Again, I talked about it before in the stream. My brain is boiling at this point from headache. So, enchant a permanent, destroy this permanent of certain condition. Again, not a condition, I would say the card characteristics. Characteristic. Yeah, basically a card characteristics. So, characteristics change on this card are met. I wouldn't say that like tapping a land necessarily like creates a characteristic for a card, because again, this is more like a behavior of the card, certain conditions. So characteristic change or slash behavior change. So this was like, this one is more like a behavior, like when it's tapped it's destroyed, when it's attacking it's destroyed. So again, this is the same, like destroy, exile, target, attacking, blocking creature. This is all behavior change. Let's just establish that. At some point we'll combine them together. Blocking creature, behavior change. Target attacking or blocking creature, behavior change, basically the same. Tapped creature, behavior change. And characteristic change, this is here, we already established this. So exile target creature with the least power on toughness. So again, this is like card characteristic change. So again, as you see, like this is commonality in destroying card, like in destroyers and then exilers, that you could try to think of by creating a card that's not just like directly destroys a creature, but creates a different and weird way of destroying a creature, which is the thing about Magic that I love the most, because these direct spells, like okay, deal 2 damage, whatever, I'm dealing 2 damage, creature dies if it's enough to kill it. Like destroy creature, that's it. It's just destroys creature and that's it. Like some people are actually liking this type of direct spells and like direct like destroyers and whatever, but I more like cards that need a specification to be utilized somehow. Like for instance, like the fact that we're not able to play legendary, for instance, instances, sorceries, unless we control a legendary creature or planeswalker under our control. So I guess if I'm remembering properly, how legendary spells like this are kind of. So again, it creates an interesting situation for it. Yes, these cards never played because no one is actually like ever playing them, because they're too complex to utilize unless you're building a deck based on planeswalkers and legendary creatures, but still it's an interesting thing to have, and it's an interesting thing like to meet this condition. It makes utilizing this ability much more thrilling on a personal level, at least to me, than just hit a massive removal or whatever. But when mass removal is unique, like for instance, destroy all creatures with converted mana costs 3, like we have in current meta. Again, it's a pretty specific thing. You have to have creatures with this type of thing. It makes you think. It makes you think, oh, okay, it's gonna destroy my creatures with converted mana cost 3 too. So I need to decide what to play now, what not to play now, in order to preserve my creatures with this converted mana cost, maybe play them later, and accept some damage. So again, you will think differently when these specifications are created, and this is the reason why I like Magic. I mean, one of the reasons, of course. There's multiple reasons here. So yeah, we're almost close to the end. I doubt that I'm going to manage to go through another hour. I'm pretty freaking tired, if I'm being honest. So, and again, for now, since we don't have that much of an audience, I'm going to stick to 1-hour sessions. And again, the beginning stream, like the start of the streams, are gonna be around this time. Again, I'm streaming in like Moscow time, so like I truly don't know in what areas potentially people could watch me. I understand that I'm streaming in English and I have more potential to hit an English speaking audience, so but I truly don't know like what areas our English speaking audience will come from potentially. So because of this, I can't necessarily say where. So again, like British Standard Time, this is this, like Pacific Standard, this. So I'm more like in counting UTC, -8, +1, +3, +5, -5, whatever. Just basically, again, you can look at my schedule, see what exact time that I started streaming, like an hour ago. But usually my schedule is, again, I'm going to call it in Russian, and then based on that you will see in schedule changes in countdown, because countdown is, I believe, adapting to your area depending on where you are launching this page from. So yeah, so usually I'm streaming at 10 p.m. Moscow time, just I believe UTC +4 or +5, don't remember properly, probably +4. So again, the time difference is pretty drastic with -8. It's not that far with UTC, probably +3 I believe. Yeah, no, +1 here, and it's pretty early. I have like, so for me it's pretty late, almost 11 p.m. So again, usually I'm starting at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. depending on what I'm planning. Again, if I'm planning a longer stream, I probably would start earlier, or if I want to get sleep a little bit earlier, I'm going to start that, but I'm definitely not going to start earlier than that. So usually streams will be started either at 10 p.m. Russian, Moscow time, or 11 p.m. Moscow time, and the rest is just, again, we'll figure it out. And then we'll go either 1 hour or 2 hours, no matter like what type of session it is. It could be a gaming session, it could be a like this study session. So yeah, let's just quickly go through a couple of cards, find our end, because again, today was like super inefficient session. I went through only like 2 freaking cards. It's the worst situation ever, but still, sometimes these sessions will be like this. It's something that you can't control here. If target creature, like, and can you imagine what if we, for instance, like chatted with someone and we wouldn't be able to get through even 1 or 2 cards? It's still fine because we're still learning, we're still talking about stuff, and we're still discussing and still brainstorming, which still adds up to this knowledge and general knowledge. So let's just consider that I chatted with myself like crazy, yeah, and learned something here. Yeah, maybe. So, and we went through a couple of mechanics, but didn't necessarily went through nothing, so it's still fine. Let's just go through a couple of more cards and decide what cards we're going to stop with. So if target creature has toughness 5 or greater, it gets +4 -4 until end of turn. Otherwise it gets +4 -X until end of turn, where X is the toughness -1. You gotta be kidding me. Another card that basically deals with this complication of certain conditions are met. This card will behave this way. Ugh. I kind of like these cards, but again, my brain is not able to work with them today. So let's just keep this card on the next session. My brain is done for today, unfortunately. Again, sorry for it, but I truly don't have a... Oh, by the way, since we added this thing in our destroyer, let's just keep it here. Let's just not even going to go through the specifications. Again, it's just, if target creature has toughness 5 or greater, it gets this. The only thing is, like, what it is. It's an instant. So this is actually important here. Since this is an instant, it will behave like a different way. So if target creature has toughness 5 or greater, it gets this type of buff until end of turn. Otherwise it gets +4 +X until end of turn, where X is its toughness -1. So actually it's a pretty self-explanatory ability. It's a buff or debuff based on the creature toughness, which is actually pretty cool. So let's just establish that. So this is basically a buff or debuff, it depends on conditions. I know debuff is actually spelled this way. Let's call it that way. So buff or debuff based on cards, again, characteristics. And for us, characteristics are power and toughness, name, converted mana cost, whatever. So let's just establish what characteristics are. Name, power, toughness, never gonna create a proper spelling for toughness ever. One of the weirdest words ever. Toughness, it's just like, come on. So name, power, toughness, what else? Let's just go with mana cost. Mana cost and converted mana cost is a different thing, because converted mana cost, this is a mana cost that is actually present, and mana cost, this is something that could just cost a certain amount of mana. I mean, if we will deal into the complexities, I believe these are the different things, because converted mana cost, this is still considered like a mana cost, but if you're gonna be like create a specific type of mechanics based on that, you will probably name them a little bit differently based on the actual converted mana cost or just mana cost, because actual converted mana cost, this is basically unchanged characteristics of the card, the base characteristic of the card, but the mana cost, this is the exact mana cost that was paid to cast the spell. This is at least the way that I'm going to look at them. This is actually something that we could establish. Since I started to talk about it, why not? I have this information probably at MTG Study course, somewhere in here. Zones, resources, mechanics, rules, in-game conditions. Let's add an in-game condition, like in terms of the rules, and add mana spend, or spending mana, or whatever. So basically we have a mana cost and we have converted mana cost. And this is just, again, I might be wrong about this, but it's still a good idea to put this into understanding and have these two separate things in order to then maybe utilize them. And let's just add an explanation for them. So again, converted mana, this is the actual, like the original without changes mana cost of the card, and mana cost, this is the actual paid with changes, with possible changes mana cost of the card. So again, if you have, like, for instance, affinity to artifacts, which allows you to put cards with a reduced mana cost, it's basically is going to be called just regular mana cost in my, for instance, view. And converted mana cost is this is just something that it's actual, like without changes. But again, I might kind of confuse myself with this thing, but it could be a good idea to actually separate them, because if we're going to talk about mana cost, separating them into two types of mana costs seems like a good idea, because usually we have actually different types of mana costs. Like, one is the actual one, like actual original one, unchanged one, and the actual played one that we're actually paying. So seems like a good idea to separate them. Yeah, so, and let's just find our last card that it's gonna be hopefully complex and stop on there. So again, we went through this one. It was actually relatively simple. It's just a buff or a debuff. So next one is a put charge counter on the blue mana battery. So again, we already talked about charge counters. We actually created a separate thing how charge counters are working. And then you either by tapping it remove any number of charge counters from the blue mana, add this one, and then add additional one for each charge counter removed this way. So again, we already created a thing for charge counter. Let's just find it. to make sure. It was probably in a previous session, if I remember properly. It seems like it. Where is the fine thing here? Seriously, where is the fine thing? Find replace. Charge counter. So yeah, here it is. So again, charge counter is basically you pay additional costs to put these X amount of charge counters on this card, then you will be able to remove any number of charge counters from this card, and it gives you something, and it also produces a larger effect for each charge counter on it or removed from it. So this is exactly what it does. So covered. Next one, return target permanent to its owner's hand. So again, just a regular returner for the permanent. This one creates a 1/1 black and red demon creature token named Minor Demon. Pretty funny name, Minor Demon. It's definitely minor because it's just 1/1. Because usually demons are pretty big. So again, nothing special, just a regular card with activated ability. When this one dies, change the base power and toughness of all creatures that dealt damage to it this turn to 0-2. This effect is less indefinitely. Okay, this is the last card that we're going to start with, or the next card that we're going to start with this Friday. So again, this Friday we will continue with this. Usually on Fridays we stream Russian streams in Magic Arena, but again, schedule in changes depicts this information that some on the MTG Sets study weeks, usually there's not going to be any Russian streams because again I can't talk and study this thing in Russian. It's just gonna create more confusion. I have to stick to one language only. And again, we still could talk about to talk with Russian audience here if someone will come, but in most cases this is just something that I have to do separately because everything in in Magic, everything in English, and English, this is a native language for Magic, and it would be weird to study it halfway. Half of information is going to be in Russian, half in English. It's just weird. It's going to be much more complicated to learn. It's going to be much more complicated to do almost everything. And I'm actually planning to create games in English in general, and then create maybe a Russian translation, or create a separate I don't know, documentation that translates all things if I'm not going to be able to add this Russian language inside of the game. So again, because there's more reach if it's gonna be in English. To create a localization for it, it's not that big of a deal. Especially if it's a text-based localization, you just have to find a way to do this. But original is always going to be in English, I believe. So because of this, these MTG Sets study sessions are always going to be in English. Although I'm setting right here that it's secondary language here is Russian. Again, if Russian audience will join us, and we can think about stuff. But again, in general, all those abilities still gonna be thought of and analyzed in English. Although it could be described in Russian just as a kind of example. So yeah, that's it for today, I guess. So again, I have a pretty, already a more growing headache. I would say that it is minor headache, like minor demon. No, it's more than a minor headache, so in order to not make it bigger or worse, I guess I have to stop streaming. So I guess on this note, we're gonna end this session. So again, we stopped on a brain hag. So it's a pretty cool card. We're gonna definitely on Friday we'll continue with this one. Again, it's pretty interesting. When it dies, it basically kind of changes these characteristics of all cards that interacted with it. So it actually, I have a lot of ideas in my brain. It's definitely going to take me at least 20 minutes to go through this card. So it's not a good idea to do this today. So again, see you in the session in a second part of this 143rd session. So yep, I guess this is kind of it. Again, I'm saying bye. Body says bye too. And see you in a part 2 of 143 session, which is going to be this Friday. and approximately the same time as was this one. Maybe earlier, maybe later, we'll see. So yeah, look through the schedule in MTG Study panels, or in Twitch panels basically on AleksTabletops, which is again the good thing about Twitch, that now this information in panels is available, because I didn't have this opportunity in YouTube. On YouTube, like on YouTube, the only place that you can put information in for people to read is basically a description. That's it. And Twitch has these panels, which are basically the most beautiful thing ever that you could possibly imagine, because it has so much information. There's so much possibility to create this information. So because of this, I have a lot of panels, about 20 of them probably, because I love information and I love to give people information. The rest, again, as we talked at the beginning of the stream, most of the people have pretty short time span, so I'm pretty sure that no one is going to read this information, but for those who will read it, they will appreciate it, and this is the reason why I add this. So yeah, so again, don't hesitate to check the information below on Twitch panels, because again, it has a lot of information. Just read it. Hopefully I actually added this thing in here. So yep, check about channel. No, check. Let's see. Let's add the text. Twitch panels. I'm changing to text right away. Panels for more info. Yeah, this is better. So again, thank you for watching. And read this scrolling text, which gives you basically more information. And check, wait a minute, Twitch panels, hopefully it's properly spelled for more information. Yay, superb. So yeah, this is it. Again, see you on Friday. Bye.